Hey guys, Shane Harder here from Seeking Unemployment. This is the real estate investment show where we learn how to become gainfully unemployed together. So today's episode is episode 5 of a much larger series where I go about asking investors from all over the country in different asset classes and different experience levels how they're handling specific issues. Now, the issue today that we're talking about is finding deals. So, how are they finding the deals that they're putting under contract? I know I learned a lot from this episode. I believe you will too. So let's take a look.
We do direct mail, network, you talk to brokers, you build relationships with the people that move the product. So if you have the major brokers in an industry, you need to get to know them and build a lot of credibility. If I'm a broker and I get a deal coming now, in the world today, the industry's come to a screeching halt. So there's not a lot of deals being run through brokers right now. Probably more of an opportunity to go right to the owners. But again, it's relationship and it's awareness and being closest to the deal. I agree with you completely. The trust part has to be there. I think that's implied in being close to the deal. I mean, if I'm an owner of a property, I'm not going to let you get very close if I don't trust you.
Yeah. So for us, we have a bit of an advantage because we're, playing with fairly large dollars. So we're going to banks. For example, our Atlanta inventory, the reason we can go and buy these properties and resell them at a reasonable price to the investors that buy from us is because we have relationships with certain banks that had a lot of inventory, and we're starting to run low of inventory, and I suspect that's going to change again. So we've been buying in bulk from them. That's how I buy a lot of times. Other times we're going to auctions. For people who are watching this, who are just starting out, once again, it's going to come down to your resources and creativity. But there's lots of ways. I get a lot of people come to me with very little cash to play with. Auctions would be a great way, but you need to know what you're doing. You can't go to an auction without having done your due diligence. If you don't know what the due diligence steps are, you're probably going to lose your shirt very, very quickly. So you have to be really careful. Once again, my foreclosure fixer has attracted a lot of people that were in a distressed situation. So we'll be doing more of that. But once again, everybody's going to be in a different boat depending on what their financial, what their finances look like, their ability to qualify for a mortgage, etc. But for people watching, I guarantee you, even if you have not a dime in the bank, and if you have horrible credit, I guarantee you there's ways that you can still go do real estate deals, such as the wholesaling I talked about earlier. Going to these auctions if you know how to do them properly. So what I do is once I train my students, I also give them my team on the ground for example, in Houston, Texas. So I have students as far away as Australia that do their research on their computer every month. They send their list of what they want to buy to my team on the ground in Houston, and they go do the deals. Now, the people that I've got in Australia, when he first started, he wasn't using his own money. He didn't have a whole lot of money. And so he was able to go and say, hey, listen, I've got this opportunity in Houston, Texas, in the United States. And we've seen properties change hands for like $6,000, $7,000. And here's some case studies. And they took so you're never going to go and say, hey, here's a deal that I've done if you haven't done it. But you can legitimately say, hey, here's some deals that my team has done, because my team is now their team. And, would you be willing to invest? If you're willing to put up the cash, I'll do the work, and then we'll split the profits. And after you've done a couple of these deals, you fill up a couple of these properties, now you've got enough money to do it on your own. You're probably going to continue to work with your partners. You're not going to ditch them after they help you out. But now you're going to continue to do deals with them, make them some more money, make yourself some more money, and then you're going to keep reinvesting your profits into buying more properties as well. The interesting thing that happens, though, is once you make somebody money, what do they do when they go on the golf course? They start telling their friends, hey, I'm investing in U.S. real estate. And then their buddies start asking, how do you do it? Next thing you know, you got other people wanting to invest with you, even if you weren't even looking for it. And there's kind of that tipping point. It's kind of funny. I have a YouTube channel. I've got like 200 videos on there. Not one of them does it say, hey, if you want to team up with me, just send me your money. I'm never asking for money. We're self-funded now, luckily. back in the days when I could have used that money, nobody was calling me. I had to go looking for it. Now I don't even ask for money, and I've got emails every day from people saying, "Hey, I've got 100,000, 200,000, 50,000. How can I invest with you?" So
Wow.
it's kind of ironic when you're first starting out, it's difficult. After a while, you hit a certain tipping point where people approach you with money, and then the sky's the limit depending on how many deals you want to do. So.
Yeah.
So don't feel like you have to have a bunch of money in the bank. When I started, I started off with a bunch of student loans. I had to be very creative to get those first couple of properties. But you're really you're one deal away really from not having financial problems ever again. That's really what it comes down to. So you just have to learn how to do that. Get that one deal under your belt. And then after that, as long as you don't make any big mistakes and you get to keep that money you made and keep parlaying it into more money, life gets really interesting and a lot more fun when you get in that situation.
This goes back to relationships, right? This is why they're so important. I have a few different avenues for finding my deals, and although my team is a big part of it, my team knows what I want. Like I said, I have those agents that all kind of fit into their own little niche, and when they see something that comes to them either on the MLS or off the MLS through connections of their own, they'll call me up and say, "Hey, I've got this property. What do you think?" That's one way. Honestly, I'm connected to Redfin all the time. I've set up searches on Redfin, and that's just the one that I use. I know there's a lot of platforms out there. Redfin works pretty good for me for looking at my own stuff. So my mailbox gets full. Literally, Redfin will send me something like as it gets put on the MLS before there's even pictures. So I can immediately look at that. I've gotten to the point where I can look at the location and I figure out where it's at. Is an area I want to be in? And where does it fit into my exit strategy? Is this a good buy and hold? Is this a good flip? And I source my deals from a few different angles. I kind of try to look for them myself. I have my agents bring them to me. On top of that, I've developed relationships with property managers. I've developed relationships with people who I have a company that works for me they do all my permitting stuff. So they brought me a few deals because they hear about something coming through their permit office. And so they'll call me. So they're not a real estate agent. They're nothing more than a connection, but they're part of my team. My foundation inspector has brought me a couple of deals because he's been to a house. And there's no way I could do any of this without building relationships and making connections. Yeah. And so that's why I always say it's so important. Get out there, Facebook groups, whatever it is, go out there and make connections and build relationships. And I always take care of those people. If somebody brings me a property, then I float them something at the end because that makes them think, wow, that's pretty cool. I'm going to try to get him more.
Sure.
So I pay them a finder's fee or whatever it is,
If you're shopping locally in your market, I like to drive for dollars, meaning I like to just drive the neighborhoods that I want to be in and look for distressed properties. And you can find distressed properties. Usually the windows are single pane aluminum instead of vinyl. Usually the landscaping is not very well taken care of. The parking lot might be all cracked. The roof could be in bad shape. Those are all signs that the owner is very likely out of money and can't do those capital improvements. And that could present a really good opportunity to cash that owner out and get them capitalized and maybe moving on to the next investment, and then also picking up a deal that has a nice value add component. So I think knowing your market really well and driving it, being in it, driving it is crucial. If you're shopping out of your own local market, go to that market and physically meet those brokers, shake their hand. Well, I guess you can't shake hands right now, but meet them in person. Once again, that's something that so few people do. If you make that personal impression, you go to lunch and you go look at a few properties and you hit it off and you gain some rapport, that's gold.
Yeah.
So
just like we did
you
in
should-
Albuquerque, not just right
Yes.
before everything started locking down.
Exactly. So be in the market, spend time in the markets that you want to be in.
Yeah, that's great. I think that also on our Albuquerque trip, it also gave a great example of a way to solidify the foundation with the property manager. So not just the
Yep.
broker, but other people
Yep.
that might be involved in that deal. One thing that I enjoyed about that is we even went around to some of the tenants and started talking to the tenants, and it's a pretty entertaining thing when you have tenants tell you way more information than you ever asked for.
Yeah.
They'll get into their whole
sure.
life story. It's really entertaining and really kind of fun. I remember still that one guy who gave us the whole story on somebody that that ran into a power line behind his unit, and it fell over and broke the transformer, and then there was some shootout or something crazy like that. It sounded like the Old West, but it was definitely entertaining, that's for sure.
Yeah. You learn a lot about an apartment complex by talking to the tenants.
Yep.
That's a very key thing to do during your due diligence. The
Yep.
due diligence process for an apartment building is pretty intense. There's a lot to it. And I won't go into it more than that, but it's expensive. You're usually spending a fair amount of money on a loan fee to get the loan going. And then you're spending money on due diligence, usually with the property manager. You're usually getting attorneys going on establishing your entity, because you're usually putting it in a new entity. And then if you're syndicating, you need an SEC attorney to put your private placement memorandum together and that sort of thing. So once you're under contract on a deal, there is a fair amount to do, but there's a fair amount to do on a one unit.
Sure.
When you buy it. So again, the scale and it just
How are you finding deals?
So I like to find deals just reaching out directly to people. I tried for a long time to get hands on deals by using middlemen, but
By wholesalers? Is that what you're looking for?
wholesalers, real estate agents,
Okay.
a little bit of everybody, but I just didn't really have much success with it. The pace is too quick for me. And I've gotten a couple now that I've been able to actually, this house I just worked on right now, I picked that thing up from a wholesaler within like an hour and a half of him putting it on.
Oh,
So
nice.
I have had it work out, but most of the time it just hasn't. Things have moved too quick, and I've just been too concerned because I want to be able to look over everything and make sure the numbers are going to really play out. So what I prefer is a little bit slower of a process, and I prefer to be directly talking to the homeowner, whether it's just a person or if it's a private investor, whatever their state is. I just want to know what their problems are and figure out a solution to it. I reach out to them via Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, the MLS, through a bunch of different wholesalers I know, a lot through other investors I know, and a lot through through different property managers to find out what investors they talk to. I also do driving for dollars, or find what do they call them? Pig dogs, or no?
Bird dog.
Bird dogs. I'm thinking of pig dog surfing. Surfing. Bird dog. So I'll find people who just do that, like go around and make lists of houses that are vacant, and I have sent them text messages or phone calls after just looking up their name on like white pages.
Cool.
I haven't done anything with like big lists or anything yet. That's something I'm going to be jumping into really soon here, but that's not something I've personally really gone into. But I haven't needed the volume, so I haven't worried about it. I've just been looking for these like perfect deals.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you found a few that are pretty good.
So where do I find my deals? So, it's a multitude of ways. We do some marketing, and that's a combination of postcards. Here lately, we've been doing a lot more online marketing through Facebook and YouTube and things. And then certainly networking, buying from banks, occasionally from other wholesalers, auctions. I mean, it really is a lot of different avenues. Early on, I was almost exclusively buying from banks. And of course, this was back during the recession. I started in 2007, which was a great time to begin investing, right?
Yeah.
And so most everything that we were buying at that time was through banks. And as that started to dry up, a few problems started coming into that in like 2009, 2010. And at the time, I'm like, well, what am I going to do now? Because I didn't have any other methods. And so little by little, we started doing other types of marketing and started finding other avenues to get deals and stuff. But
going more direct to seller, it sounds like.
Correct.
Yeah.
More direct to seller. Exactly.
Cool.
Marketing directly to the seller. So it really is a variety of things now. Probably the biggest lesson I learned there is just, the thing that I should have known to begin with, and that is just don't put all your eggs in one basket.
All right, guys, that wraps up this video. If you'd like to connect with us and partner on some multifamily deals, click on the link below and we can send you all the info on how to get started there. If you'd like to check out the videos from the beginning of this playlist, click on this link right here. To check out the link that Google wants you to watch, click on this link right here. And lastly, if you want to make sure you see the future videos that we'll be posting in the same series, click on this subscribe link right here. You'll be all set to go. Thank you so much, guys, and we'll see you on the next one.